What's going on, everybody? Happy to be back here with Impact Sports Breaks. I'm Buffy.
And I'm Ray. You guys can't see me over tucked to the side, but I promise you I will be right here.
He's here. I actually have a friend. He's there. See? There he is. This is our first podcast. We're actually going to go over a couple things today. Mainly what we feel about some of the investment potential for a lot of the NFL players that broke out week one. Some not so obvious, some pretty obvious, those that follow the NFL hardcore. You got a couple guys that are going to be some great values long term and short term. A couple guys complete waste of money, is a total washout. So with that being said, let's just get into it, Ray. Who do you got for me here on the first grouping of players?
All right. First, let's start off with Mr. John Ross.
John Ross. Okay, so John Ross, second-year wideout, had one of the biggest games of week one. 150 yards, 2 touchdowns, 12 targets, big target share in A.J. Green's absence. Relatively cheap to buy into John Ross, which is his benefit. You can get contenders autos for under $10. That's probably his biggest thing. He's an absolute speedster, ran the 4.2, 240. So that's kind of his draw. What pulls him back, not really going to win a lot of games this year. His division's tough. Dalton's his quarterback, and he's still got A.J. Green coming back. So that's going to be a problem for Ross's ceiling, but even more so of a problem that I see for him are his hands. Had a couple killer drops, which probably stopped him from having a 200-yard game this week. You also have Tyler Boyd, who I'll get into him a little bit later on, but Tyler Boyd, probably a much better option as far as what we expect production-wise. His autos are even cheaper than Ross, and he's a better player. He's going to see more time on the field, and he was great last year. So Ross, a good cheap buy-in, but a lot of risk there, a lot of factors working against him, but he definitely has blow-up potential because of that speed.
All right. So getting into the next one here, we got DJ Chark of the Jaguars.
Another second-year receiver. Chark's second rounder. Big body, 6'4", 230. Last year, 174 receiving yards, I believe, all of last year. And this week, he had 146 alone. Handful of targets. Big problem for Chark is, one, who's his quarterback now? It's Gardner Minshew, if you don't know, who actually had a pretty stellar game against a very, very weak Kansas City defense in a very, very positive game script for completions. But all that going on, the biggest problem for Chark, not the buy-in, he's cheap as well, right around the same range as Ross. You can find some nicer cards, contenders autos, patch autos, a couple of the more high-end sets for in the $8 to $15 range still. But there's going to be no consistency probably in that receiver group, at least not now. It's not a very safe-feeling investment to me between Chark, Conley, and Dede Westbrook. I don't know where the touches are going to go from week to week to week. They expect to be very run-heavy with Fournette and a 6th-rounder in Minshew starting. On top of that, Fournette snags a lot of balls. He's probably going to be the leading target guy every week, every other week, or at least the most consistent. So it's hard to put stock into receivers because you really need to take a big step, a big statistical leap to kind of jump up in price. You have guys that have been at the peak of the receiver pyramid for years, and their rookie autos are in the $25 to $30 range for guys like Devontae Adams, $20. Julio Jones, $40 max. A.J. Green, $25. So you look at guys like that, what does DJ Chark have to do to get into that range? Nothing that I feel confident with him being able to keep up over the course of a season. Short term, any of these guys that we're talking about today, one more good week could propel them into a short-term flip if we're looking for a quick investment. But long-term, I think we're 0-2 so far with Chark and John Ross.
0-2, huh? All right, let's see if we can change that. Next up, we have Michael Gallup of the Cowboys.
Michael Gallup. I believe this is the last of our second-year receivers that we're going to go over today. Gallup I like a little bit better. You got a lot of plus factors working for him, pretty much the opposite of what we've seen in Chark and Ross. Gallup, an absolute monster in college. He's got the pedigree to back up his actual game. Not a guy that's just a physical specimen or a guy who's just a speedster and has holes in his game. Gallup absolutely dominated at Colorado State. Probably was the best receiver in college football statistically that year. 6'1", he's got speed, he's big, he's got hands. Even more important is he's on a very popular team. You look at the Cowboys. Cowboys player is, statistically speaking, as far as values go in the hobby, probably worth double, maybe more in some instances as to what a similar caliber player on another team would be. The Cowboys are going to win a lot of games this year too. A lot of games. Very good team. Their offensive line is an absolute just the best. Just a juggernaut. So that's going to leave a lot of time for Prescott to sit in the pocket and throw, as we saw against the Giants, who they just absolutely destroyed, picked them apart. So that's going to be good news for Gallup. I see a lot of catches, a lot of targets, big body in the red zone, a lot of touchdowns. He could, lose a little bit of that share to sneaky slot player Randall Cobb and big body Jason Witten. But Gallup's buy-in is the only thing that hinders him a little bit. You're probably looking at the $15 to $20 range for a nice Gallup. You can probably pick up a couple other ones for cheaper than that, but at least he's in the range where he's still underneath the floor of some of the better receivers in the league, and we're not talking the same caliber cards. We're talking a Gallup card that would be in the middle tier, maybe the lower upper tier or the middle tier, is the same price as what the worst Davante Adams is. So he's got a chance with all the factors surrounding him to maybe get to that level this year. So he's a decent long-term play. I like him better than the first two so far, and he's number one on my list for second-year receivers that had good showings here in Week 1.
Okay, first, before we move on, I've got to say thank you for the unbiased opinion.
Oh, the Giants suck.
Oh, I mean,
Yeah, where are my keys? Go Giants. Where's my lanyard? I don't know.
Yeah. Let's not get into that one.
I'll tell it like it is.
But before, let's move on here. So
now get me talking about the Eagles. Then
we're not doing that right now.
All right,
not on episode 1. So moving on, we've got our first-year receivers. Let's start off with Mr. Hollywood Brown.
Who else do we have on this list, real quick?
All right, well, Hollywood Brown, we got DK Metcalf.
Okay.
And we got Terry McLaurin.
Okay, so three guys right there. You got the number one receiver off the board in this year's draft, Brown. Metcalf, a second rounder to the Seahawks at 64 overall. Absolute freak of an athlete. Just can't run routes. And then you have McLaurin, who, similar to John Ross, a burner, real speedster, 4.3 40. They actually said on the broadcast that he went to Ohio State. Urban Meyer saw how fast he was, wanted to give him a scholarship, but he couldn't catch anything. So he actually told McLaurin, go home, learn how to catch, and come back. McLaurin would practice with his mom, catching 200 to 300 balls a day. Went back a couple months later, tried out, full ride, third-round pick now for the Redskins. The problem with rookie receivers, especially right now, because we don't have a lot of products out, is the buy-in is just too high. McLaurin is the only one out of these three guys that it's even worth taking a stab. Hollywood Brown and Metcalf, they're $20-$25 just for the cheapest stuff that you can find right now, which is going to be leaf metal in your college uniform stuff, score sticker auto, stuff that you just don't want. I mean, you're talking the nth degree of wide receiver performance is the buy-in for these guys right now. There's no way it's sustainable. There could be a quick flip in the make for them. Again, one more week of high production. You could see a quick spike, especially because there won't be many more products released between now and then. We got anything coming down the pipeline this week for football, Ray?
We have Spectra. This Friday.
So you got one more. You got one more licensed product. And as more and more licensed product comes out, the Press Pass, Sage, Leaf Metal Draft, Luminance, all these products that, even if they're licensed, they feature them in college uniforms and college relics, they're going to fall. So very difficult to invest in rookies altogether right now. Brown is even more scary for me than any of them, just because he wasn't on the field really. He made the most of his snaps. He was on the field for 14 snaps. He actually set the NFL record for most yards per snap for a player that for a rookie that played in more than 10 snaps in a game. It was like 11 yards per snap or something like that. I mean,
can we put an asterisk by that?
Ridiculous stat. I mean, meaningless. Absolutely means nothing. But he made the most of his opportunities on the field.
I just want to make sure you guys know that it was against the Dolphins.
And it was against the Dolphins. So thank you for being unbiased, right?
I hate everything.
Hey, Minka Fitzpatrick. It's my hometown boy, sneaking up the secondary.
Ooh, sure thing. Anyways.
But out of those three guys, the only one I would take a long-term stab at if you can find something nice is McLaurin. He's cheaper than the other guys. He's about half the price. You're looking at maybe $10 or so to buy into a McLaurin autograph, and he's probably the Redskins' best receiver, all things considered, which isn't saying much. But Case Keenum did throw for over 300 yards in Week 1. Geis is hurt. There's a chance for some targets for him, especially with that speed. He would have had 200 yards if Keenum didn't overthrow him on another 75-yard pass that he was wide open for. So McLaurin's my pick out of those guys. Out of the other two, coin flip. Metcalf's the better athlete, I think. But if you can't get open, you can't catch the ball. See Cordero Patterson. Marquise Brown, interesting to me. I'm not paying that price, though. I'd allocate my money elsewhere.
Okay, you heard it here first. So, let's move on to an interesting duo, I would say.
Okay.
These guys are a little older.
Older's not always worse in the NFL.
Definitely not. I mean, and these guys are relatively lower profiled. So, I'm interested on what your thoughts are on both John Brown and we mentioned him, Chris Conley.
Love Smokey Brown and Chris Conley. Okay. I'll start with Conley first. He's a little bit less intriguing to me as far as player profile goes. Big body. He was with the Chiefs. So he comes from a winning franchise. He's been there since 2015. He's kind of in the same boat as DJ Chark. They're the same player, essentially, to me at this point. Chark obviously has a little bit more upside because he's younger. Conley's already 26. But Chark's upside, just because of his age, is more intriguing. Conley you can probably get him for cheaper. If you're on like an ultimate budget, you're picking up some nice Conley cards for $5, $6. The problem is to me, he's still probably the third best receiver on that team, behind Dede Westbrook and Chark, and then even Fournette. But game script tells me the Jaguars are probably either going to be run heavy in the first half and losing a lot in the second half, which is good for receivers when it comes to stats. Doesn't always translate to being card good, but one of those three guys out of Conley, Chark, or Westbrook is probably going to emerge into the role that we saw Allen Robinson come into a couple years ago, which took him from a $2 box autograph into the $8, $10 autograph for common rookies. So it sounds modest, but if we're trying to ball on a budget, Conley's definitely a decent option who should see a fair target share in Jacksonville. Minshew again, question mark. I don't know. So that's another thing that concerns me for him. More intriguing, though, is John Brown. Much more intriguing. Very upset that I actually had to drop him in fantasy to pick up a guy that we're going to talk about later. But he was my last round pick in my first league. Had to drop him. Didn't want to. And he torched the Jets in Week 1. So people don't remember John Brown from a couple years ago with the Cardinals, but he was very good. It was him, Jerron Brown, and Larry Fitzgerald. John Brown was just awesome. Awesome guy. He was everywhere. Anytime Fitzgerald wasn't there, John Brown was there to fill the void. But concussions kept him out for about a year and a half now, just littered with injuries left and right with the Cardinals and then with his short time with the Ravens. But that being said, he's healthy now, and he's definitely Josh Allen's number one target. He's 29 years old, so he's a little bit more savvy than some of the guys that we're talking about, which is great for catch totals. We're looking at guys that, can run routes, can get open, can make it easy on rookie quarterbacks. John Brown's been in the league since 2014. He knows how to do that. On top of that, he's got speed, and he's got good hands. And even better is you can buy into John Brown for contenders autos for $5. $5. Look for John Brown to probably be a top 15, top 20 receiver this year, no problems. I mean, as long as health isn't an issue. So a buy-in for me at that price, if you're balling on a budget and you like receivers, that's probably my go-to. The only other one that we don't have on our list is Jamison Crowder. He's the only other guy that's kind of similar to me. You might see a very 2008 New York Giants Steve Smith type year from him, which is 100+ catches, little over 1,000 yards, a third down chain mover. Not sexy, not flashy, but when you look at the end of the year, it's holy crap, look at all those catches. But I like Brown more because he's more of a true number one type guy as opposed to Crowder, who's to me more of just a stat mongler, which isn't a bad thing, but he's another good option is Crowder. So Crowder and Brown, then Conley.
Okay. Sounds good to me.
Who you spending your money on so far, Ray, out of the wide receiver group? That's the end of the wide receivers. So who Who do you like? My analysis. Who does it lead you towards?
You know, your analysis and what I like are two very different things.
That's fair. I'm not always right.
Not because you're right, because I'm stubborn. And I also, I'm a fan.
You don't work hard for your money, so you can blow it on whatever.
I sit there, and it just somehow comes.
So who's your pick? Who's your number one out of the 9 receivers that we listed, if we include Jamison Crowder on that list?
You know what? I do love Hollywood Brown. I'm a fan. He's just gonna, he's a sexy pick too. It's
he's high upside.
We're gonna go high. We're gonna get those long balls, and it's kind of boom or bust with him.
He's flashy.
Yeah, and kind of want I like flashy, and I like
flashy is a good thing. I mean, look at Odell Beckham. Flashy went a long way with him.
Yeah, we'll see how that
plays out. Yeah, we're not gonna talk about the Browns.
Yeah, that's an episode.
It's one game.
That's a whole book for another.
Oh boy.
For another day or year.
Cleveland.
But
at least they're not Detroit.
At least they're not Detroit.
We're not Detroit.
But speaking of Detroit.
All right, what do we got?
Moving forward.
Segue.
So, let's get into some of the tight ends.
Okay, who do we got on our tight end list here?
We got two guys. One of them, which, talking to you a little bit before this, I know you love. All right, so we've got Darren Waller and we got T.J. Hawkinson.
Okay, we'll go with Hawkinson first. He's a little bit more known probably amongst the people that are going to be listening to this. First round pick, absolute beast mode, just total Gronk clone. It looks like. It's one game. Tight ends are what tight ends are. You've seen Travis Kelce, Tyler Eifert, Zach Ertz, these guys. No one's been like Gronk, even though they're all very good. Vance McDonald's another one, just a big, just monster of a man. Hawkinson fits that mold as well. Buying into Hawkinson right now it's moderate. You're looking at $20 or so for a decent Hawkinson. Maybe a little bit less than that if you can get lucky. But he's got tight end 1 potential, top 5 tight end in the league potential, which is good. He's kind of a safer play to me. If you don't want to have to worry too much about them falling off a cliff just because of his college production and his abilities and the offense that he's in. Out of the guys we've been talking about so far, I like him to maintain his value the best. At least so far. There's injuries, of course. Football, you know what it is. Injuries could happen. Practice, Teddy Bridgewater, Dante Fowler Jr., you name it. You're going down in practice, just minding your own business. But if he can stay healthy, I kind of like his floor where it's at right now. And obviously his ceiling is Gronk. So, Gronk, better rookie autos are $70. So he can get there. And I definitely think he'll see the targets to help him get to that, especially if he can do it in a rookie season. So Hawkinson I like. I wish the buy-in was about half what it is right now. But as more products start to flood the market, hopefully he won't start off the season on an absolute tear, and there'll be a chance to buy into Hawkinson for $10 or so. Because I'm a stasher at that for at least a couple to be part of that train. Any guy who can be the best player in the league at his position is someone that you should have something of. Moving on to Darren Waller. So Waller's an interesting case. If you watched Hard Knocks, you know about Darren Waller. He was on the Ravens for a couple years, not a lot of work. 2015 rookie class. On their practice squad, John Gruden saw him on the sidelines, said, "Give me that guy," and then he wound up signing with the Raiders, and now here he is, 7 catches, 70 yards in the opener, looking like the best receiver on the team. Maybe him or Tyrell Williams. So Waller's an interesting case because he's not in a ton of sets. He's got about 7 or 8 different sets that he's in, mainly low-end Panini products. You got Rookies and Stars, Certified, Prestige, Crown Royals, stuff like that, from a down rookie class, too. 2015 is probably the cheapest year of football in the past half-decade, bar none. So those products, he's readily available in them. He does have a Contenders auto. He does have a National Treasures auto, his 2 big ones. But the great thing about Darren Waller is he has a absolute bargain bin buy-in right now, $5. And you're talking, he's got the same ceiling this year as Hawkinson. I mean, he won't get the Gronk levels. No one's going to get the Gronk levels in a year that's already 27 years old. It's not going to happen. But you could see Waller become a $15, $20 auto, no problem, just because there's not going to be enough out there to supply the people who want one when you only have a limited number of sets that you're in. So to give you an idea, I was watching last night as Waller was having an amazing first and second quarter, and I was able to, on ComC, find his Crown Royal rookie auto to 25. It was sitting there for $14.25, and I waited, and I waited, and I waited, and I waited, and he finally got his fourth or fifth catch. I hit it, I turned around, I priced it at $45. I walked to my couch, sat down, refreshed the page, sold. So that's the kind of potential there is for Darren Waller. The Raiders have a rabid fan base. He's a good player. He's got a popular following from the Hard Knocks show, and he produced so far in Week 1 in a big victory for the Raiders. So a lot of the saga there is with Antonio Brown and all that stuff, but Waller's the story for me. Their offense has improved. Derek Carr is good. Josh Jacobs is good. Tyrell Williams is good. So their defense looked good. They might be a surprise team in the AFC West, and it's going to rely a lot on what Waller can do offensively. So for the buy-in for $4 or $5 right now for some of his autos, contenders are probably about 15 or so. He's an immaculate too, I believe. But for that price, give me a flyer. You got to diversify your portfolio. You never want to just throw all your money at one guy. But he's definitely a guy that I'm looking at. To what's the worst that can happen kind of stuff. Oh, I lost $5. What is that? A Chick-fil-A sandwich? Give me a Darren Waller rookie autograph instead. Last thing to note about Waller is he's going to be the reason for our giveaway that we're going to mention later. But it's going to be Darren Waller themed, so we will get to that at the end of the video. So make sure you stay tuned and get yourself a chance to win possibly a nice Darren Waller rookie card.
But going off of that one, I'm going to throw the curveball here. So you mentioned that you would trade a Chick-fil-A sandwich for a Darren Waller. You know where I'm going.
I thought I wanted to make that trade. I don't want to make that trade.
Well, I mean, what about Popeyes? What about the Popeye chicken sandwich?
I haven't had the Popeye chicken sandwich.
No one has.
I know, it's a unicorn. It's just
it doesn't
I don't believe it. It's like China. I've never been there. I don't know if it's actually there. People say it's there.
I don't think that's really how it is, but moving forward.
That's an actual theory. Along. It's a real theory. Like, does Rhode Island exist? I don't know. I've never been there. Does. If you say so, Ray.
Yeah, I sure do. Providence. Great little town.
Ben Bentel, Chris Dunn.
Oh, jeez. Oh, don't get me started on Chris.
I almost got stabbed in Providence once.
So you were there, so got it.
No, I wasn't, but I'm assuming that's a place that you would get. You would get like ransacked in the streets.
Not even a little bit. Anyway,
I apologize to the people of Providence if it exists.
All right, moving on to a pair of running backs who had some pretty monster games.
Running backs.
I don't know what your thoughts are on running backs as a whole as an investment piece, but I'll let you go into it.
We'll talk about it.
What are your thoughts on Marlon Mack and Austin Eckler?
Ooh, okay, so both on my fantasy team, one on each. Upset I couldn't get both on each, but draft slots and such. So running backs in general are tough. I almost avoid running backs at all costs. They are a dime a dozen. You see them every year. Zach Stacy in 2013 as a rookie. He led the league in rushing, or was second in the league in rushing for the last 9 weeks. Got cut in training camp the next year. How does that happen? Doug Martin, 2012, absolutely dominant. 2013, couldn't average more than 3 yards a carry. It was embarrassing. So with running backs, there's always someone younger, someone faster, someone with better hands, someone who doesn't fumble. There's always something. It's so hard to be a consistent running back in the league. So running backs are almost always short-term plays. So with that in mind, you got to remember short-term isn't short-term between now and next week. Short-term is you got to 6 weeks, maybe a year for a lot of these guys because they'll have a good year or a good stretch. And then if the price jumps, it's almost always time to sell on running backs. There's very few guys, even Adrian Peterson, that have maintained like their peak values over time. With these two guys here, I like them both. Max a $15 buy-in for some decent rookie autos. Patch autos and stuff from Certified are still in that range. He was an absolute beast last year, and people are kind of sleeping on him in the Colts altogether with what happened with Andrew Luck. So I think it's a pretty good opportunity if you're looking for a guy that could lead the league in rushing. He could be a yards from scrimmage leader. I mean, he's literally all they got. Naheem Hines isn't threatening a damn thing in that backfield. So he's very, very interesting to me as far as running backs go. I would rather have my money in a guy who I know is going to get the ball and who's given me almost a full year of solid production than some of these other guys who we're talking about throwing the same money at with less upside who haven't shown me much outside of this 1 week. It is week 1, more important than the preseason, obviously, but we're still kind of in the same realm. So give me the track record of Mac. He's good for a couple buys if you can find something that you like. Eckler was the other one?
Yes, sir.
Eckler's an interesting case. So Eckler's got one big thing working for him. One, huge. And he's got 2 rookie cards. Select, Contenders. Contenders auto, select base card, and a parallel. That's it. You're looking at about $40 or so to buy into an Eckler Contenders. And the scary thing about him, it's not the talent. He's good. I mean, he's, again, even when Melvin Gordon was there and filling in for him last year, he was great. And he showed what he can do again this year. He can catch, he can run, he's got good vision, he's strong, he's got ball security, he's got all the prototypical things we're looking for in a running back. And he's on a team that's going to win a lot of games. Chargers, to me, probably a playoff team this year. And those 2 rookie cards, it's the Adam Thielen effect. Remember what I mentioned before, right? What was I saying were the prices to buy into some of the best receivers in the league?
Oh, man.
Do you remember what I was saying? Ballpark?
Refresh me.
So you're talking $25 for Devontae Adams and AJ Green for their like worst rookie autos, maybe $20 for Adams.
Yeah.
Julio Jones 20. About 40. Hopkins about 25 to 30. Adam Thielen, good receiver, not on that level. He's probably a step below that second tier. Antonio Brown's different. I'm not quoting his prices just because what's going on. It's kind of skewing the market a little bit. So we're gonna leave him out of the conversation for this stuff. Yeah, he's like woohoo. But Thielen, the exact same setup as Austin Eckler. Most people don't know Thielen's got 2 rookie cards: 2016 Contenders, 2016 Select. His Select Silver, I sold that card in a PSA 10, just the base card, the silver Prism, $100. Contenders autos were going for $175. The lack of rookies creates a market that you don't see very often. So I love that for Eckler. I love it, love it, love it, love it. What I don't love is what the hell's going on with Melvin Gordon. 6 weeks, 8 weeks, a whole year. I don't know. Eckler to me is an interesting play. He's definitely got the most short-term upside out of any of these guys because 2 or 3 more weeks of what he did in week 1 or anything remotely close to it. If he's the NFL's leading yards from scrimmage guy at the end of quarter 1 of this season, and people start to take notice at that time, like, you kind of start weeding away the players that we might be talking about now that kind of fall off after they have these 1-game, 2-game, outbursts. If he's still there, which he definitely could be because he's shown he's good enough to do it, you're probably looking at a double up, maybe a triple up on all those cards if you can find them. The only problem is Contenders is already high to buy in. So if that number of $40 for a Contenders auto or $50 maybe, it's somewhere in that range. If that scares you off, then Eckler's going to be out for you. But he's definitely got the highest short-term ceiling out of everyone on this list, and that's why if you're not balling on a budget, if you're just balling for real, he's number 1 on my list for how to make money in September in the NFL.
Ooh, bold. I like
bold. The guy.
I like bold.
I like that. Could be wrong. You never know. Like I said, he could break his leg in 5 minutes going through a walkthrough. So if he's not on my fantasy team, he's in big trouble.
And running back.
Yeah, so. And a running back. Justin Jackson's always there. He's a good player too. So give Justin Jackson his due.
All right. Speaking of, running backs, let's get into one of those rookie running backs that everyone's been talking about.
Ah, I know who it is.
And it is not Josh Jacobs.
No,
it is Devin Singletary.
A little bit more interesting of a player to me is Devin Singletary. McCoy got cut in Buffalo, and that really kind of opened the path for him to get touches, which we actually didn't see in the first half of week 1. Didn't touch the ball until the third quarter. And then after that, he pretty much ignited the charge that led the Bills back from the 16-point deficit to overtake the Jets with, I think it was 96 yards on 8 touches or 9 touches.
Something
from scrimmage.
Absolutely absurd.
Insane. Every time he touched the ball, it was 21 yards, 13 yards. I think his worst carry was like a 7-yard run. And the buy-in for him for the couple NFL licensed cards that are out, $12, $15. So, I mean, if you want to get a rookie right now, Singletary might be the play. Again, it's hard to predict running backs, especially when there's other guys in Buffalo that we've seen in week 1 got a large share of carries. Coaches a lot of times are stubborn to turn the ball over or a full backfield over to a rookie. But Singletary's definitely a guy to keep your eye on. I might be locked and loaded with a couple things on my watch list this Sunday, and seeing how he starts off the game, and try and get into those right away if he has a hot start. Because he could be in for a significant uptick if he can take over that number one job and produce even at a clip that was half of what he did in week 1. The Bills' offense, people don't realize Josh Allen was the number one fantasy quarterback last week from weeks, I think, 12 to 17. They're not terrible. No means pretty, but for stats, which is what drives a lot of this stuff, you can do a lot worse than being in Buffalo with Josh Allen right now. So, he can also catch too. Big plus.
Ooh, okay. So we're creeping up on one of our last players.
Okay.
You know, I'm saying this because I'm going to throw you a curveball after this.
Ooh, wild card to finish us off.
Because you know, why go according to the script?
I don't like the script.
That's not fun. But before we do that, we kind of started it off a little bit with the DJ Shark.
Yes, we did.
Chronicles. So, what are your thoughts on this new guy, this Gardner Minshew?
Gardner Minshew. Very interesting. So, 6th-round pick out of Washington State. Very Tom Brady-esque of this situation. An injury.
Whoa, Tom Brady-esque.
Collarbone injury sends him into action on a touchdown pass from Nick Foles to DJ Chark, at the aforementioned DJ Chark. I mentioned it earlier, but the game flow for him was almost perfect. They were behind the whole time, comfortably behind for the most part, where the Chiefs didn't really need to be in their face to keep that game close. So I don't know if you can expect that every week, but you gotta look at what happened, and Minshew was impressive. Now, we might have missed the boat if you're only going and looking at it now for buying into Minshew. We might have missed the boat for buying in. You're looking at about $40. $40 for the cheapest Minshew you can get right now. However, starting quarterbacks, they're on a different playing field than everyone else. Minshew with one more good week, and I don't know who they're playing next week, so I'm gonna look it up right now, real fast, because that's gonna kind of influence my answer a little bit here.
It's a big deal.
NFL Week 2, the Jaguars have the Texans, who just got torched by the Saints. That is the Saints, though. So not a terrible matchup, not a great matchup. I can see that going either way, as far as him getting absolutely trounced or him being able to perform. But if a quarterback does well in back-to-back games, that comes out of nowhere, you see a absolute skyrocket. It's another world. I referenced Case Keenum twice. He did it where he went from a $4 rookie auto to a $50, $60 rookie auto, and then a second time where he was up well over $100 for some of his contenders autos, which were sitting in $5 boxes for years. It just takes 1 or 2 games for them, because quarterback means everything in the NFL when it comes to collecting. It's quarterback, 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 quarterback. You're talking the 20th best quarterback in the NFL right now. One of their worst rookie autos is probably the same as the receivers and running backs that we were talking about earlier. Some of the best players at their position, because that's just how it is. Quarterback's everything. It's the lifeblood. So Minshew is more of a gambler, or a gambling play. For those of you that are listening, if you want to throw your money at that, there's worse things in the world you can do, because even with a bad game, it's not like his card's going to be $1 after week 2. Even if he stinks, you'll still be able to dump out of it if you want, lose $20 and move on to something else. But it's no different than throwing $20 at DFS or anything else that you might want to spend your money on. That's not a certainty. But the upside is very, very high if he can perform, especially lead them to a win in Houston. I don't know enough about the guy, honestly. I mean, because who studies 6th-round picks? I don't know crap about him, what he did at Washington State. But I know what he did this Sunday. I know what his cards are worth. $40, not a steal by any means, but there's definitely room for growth in the short term for Minshew if he can replicate what he did last Sunday. Win or loss, especially if it's a win. Especially if he can do something like lead a game-winning drive or something like that. That's where you start seeing like the, oh, FOMO, I'm going to miss out. Oh, no, the Gardner Minshew train is leaving the station. I got to be on it. So
he has a glorious mustache.
He does have a glorious stash.
So that is one thing that he has going for him.
I feel like if you have a name Gardner Minshew, you almost have to have that stash. It was probably on him when he was born. They wrote Gardner on the birth certificate. They turned back around, and the kid already had the stash. It took 1 second to grow.
It's impressive. It really
It's
is.
crazy.
All right, so that was our last scripted player that we were going to break down. I have one more for you.
All right, who are you thinking, Ray?
Who am I thinking? We've been separating it out by player position. This guy does a little bit of it all.
Ha! Can I
think
guess?
you know what you're going into.
Taysom Hill?
Yes, correct. Taysom Hill. What are your thoughts? I mean, if you need a reference as to what his contenders autos are going
about
for.
About $150.
Right around there.
Taysom Hill's interesting. So he is a player unlike any other. The last player that we've seen like him, I mean, it would probably be a guy like Antoine Randall, but I think Taysom Hill's probably more talented than that. Maybe Julian Edelman. It's a good example. Quarterback at Kent State, now a receiver. Hill still is more traditionally in all those roles where he plays like the Tim Tebow Wildcat. For those who don't know, he's a Saints slash player. He'll line up at quarterback. He'll run the Wildcat. He'll throw the ball sometimes out of there. He'll line up at receiver. He'll line up on special teams. He's literally everywhere except for on defense.
He'll catch a touchdown.
Yeah, he caught a touchdown. He had a 9-yard touchdown catch last night. The biggest thing that Hill's got going for him is he's in this really cool, quirky offense with Drew Brees, popular team with the Saints. They win a lot. People see the way he's used so effectively, and I feel like it gives him a little bit more value than what he actually has to an NFL game. If he was more valuable, he would be used more, to me. It's not like he's some guy that they're just trying to figure him out. They've had him for a couple years now, so unless we see an increased role in production, I don't know how much higher his stuff can go. But you got to remember, Taysom Hill falls into the Austin Eckler and Adam Thielen mold. He has a contenders auto, and that's it. So there's always room. There's always room. We can't predict the future. You never know what can happen, especially in the NFL. It's the most predictable out of all the sports out there, probably from a week-to-week basis, which is why no one's fantasy team is ever good, even though we all think we drafted the best team as soon as the draft's over. But Hill, for me, I'm investing elsewhere, just because I feel like if he was better, he'd be more involved on a drive-by-drive basis. So that's me on Taysom Hill. If the price point was lower, it'd be a different story, but $150 goes a long way. And there's a lot more cards I think that I personally would rather have than that one.
Sure. Thanks for being a good sport on that one, by the way.
Oh, my pleasure. Anyone else you have any thoughts about or want a quick opinion before we get to the giveaway here?
You know what? I think that was the burning question.
Okay.
Honestly, but look, feel free, carry it on. Let's tell the folks how they could win something for free.
Yes. So the reason why you sat through 30-something minutes, maybe? How long we at?
That's a good question.
Why you're going to sit through 37 minutes of our podcast is to win the contents of this. I'll show it here. 2015 Prism Football Rack Pack. Darren Waller, as I mentioned earlier, not in a lot of stuff. He is in Prism. They got him into that set, which is great. So we're gonna crack open this rack pack here, and we're gonna ship off all the inserts, parallels, numbered cards, and rookies. We'll probably actually just ship everything. It's not a lot.
It's not a lot.
I'll ship it all. To someone, all you have to do to enter is on either Instagram or on YouTube or anywhere that you see this podcast. All you have to do is just leave us a comment. Let us know who you think out of the guys that we talked about today. Who's the number one investment for the next couple weeks here in the NFL? Or for the rest of the season, for that matter. If there's someone you think we missed that had a week 1 breakout, feel free to comment that as well. Just let us know who you think. We're kind of curious. So that's how we're going to do the giveaway, and we'll select a winner a couple days after the podcast is up here for you guys to listen to. And that's pretty much it. Easy peasy, right, Raymond?
Easy peasy.
Okay, I'm going to open this then.
Pull something good.
Let's see what we got.
I mean, there's that red, white, and blue.
So we got 3 packs and a red, white, and blue pack. So we'll go with the regular packs first here. Hopefully we'll hit a Darren Waller. We got a silver in here. So it's Geno Smith, Carlos Hyde. Silver is Jamal Charles. And a Sammy Coates rookie. And garbage.
Nah.
Oh, sorry. It's the Panini Gridiron app code card thing. Terrell Davis. Emmitt Smith.
Don't worry, we got autofocus on for this one, so.
Sammy Watkins and a Nick O'Leary rookie. Third pack, wrong tight end, right position, wrong tight end. We got John Riggins, Mike Evans, intros, Des Bryant. There we go.
I do like those cards still.
They're cool.
They look nice.
They are. Sorry about the camera quality here, guys. The autofocus is giving me a little bit of trouble with the shine. And I'm not even going to do it. Punt.
Punt? That's not
Oh, Magbe. Oh. I'm a Giants fan.
Ooh.
And I'm punting on that one. I don't even think he ever played for us. All right, red, white, and blue pack. Hopefully a little bit better. A little bit better. I'm not going to spoil who it is.
Ooh.
Hiding here. All right. Red, white, and blue. Oh, Ravens. Is it the Ravens? It is the Ravens. Is it Waller? That'd be funny.
It's not a
rookie. Oh, Flacco.
Oh, I do love Flacco. But that bat card's intriguing to me.
Whoop. Chiefs. Alex Smith. 2 quarterbacks.
3 quarterbacks, maybe? Yeah, maybe.
Rookie.
It doesn't look like the name's long enough.
Mariota? Trey McBride. All right. So that's it. Thanks again for watching, guys. You can follow us at Impact Sports Break on Instagram. What about on Twitter, Ray?
Same thing.
At Impact Sports Breaks on Twitter. And make sure you check us out if you're on the Blowout Cards forums. We got a couple breaks up if you guys are interested in that. We're always hunting for value. Hit us with a sub. And stay tuned for our next podcast in a couple days. Thanks again, guys. Make sure you comment. Let us know who's going to be the big investment return from the Week 1 studs.